Hey guys, we recorded this late last week and learned the morning of our scheduled release that David Bowie had passed away at the end of a long battle with cancer. We certainly mourn his loss and send our condolences to his friends and family, but we also just want to express our love and gratitude for a man whose incredible range of talent brought so much joy to us. We know that Smash Fiction isn't exactly a platform for nuanced commentary and reflections on mortality, but we wouldn't be doing this matchup if we didn't truly and honestly love David Bowie and his work. And there can be no sincerer expression of that than doing truly awful impressions of him and fixating on his crotch in a way that's honestly kind of weird. Anyway, thanks again to David Bowie for inspiring us over the last 50 years. You'll be missed.
Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more nerd icons against one another in a battle of strength, or wits, or insane but infectious song and dance routines, and argue who would win. This week, Jareth the Goblin King versus Dr. Frank-N-Furter. Bella Swan's life has gone completely down the drain. She can't even believe it. Everything is awful and her life is over. She has to move from the glorious city of Phoenix, Arizona, which we all know is just the greatest place, to Forks, Washington, which is basically the beautiful Pacific Northwestern equivalent of her personal hell on Earth. How could things possibly get any worse? Well, I suppose Bella's car could break down on her way to Forks just after she'd become lost somewhere in Washington on a rainy night. There's no apparent reason for the breakdown, but the car just won't start. Fortunately, Bella quickly discovers that there's a light in the darkness. Following it, she comes across a massive castle. With some trepidation, she knocks on the door and asks the creepy, but somehow also fabulous butler if she can use the phone, even though castles don't have phones, asshole! It isn't long before Bella meets the various denizens of this strange Washingtonian anachronism, including its owner, the sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania himself, Dr. Frank-N-Furter. Frank gives her the grand tour, showing her what exactly is on the slab, and is charmed by this girl and her musings about how cop cars slow down traffic, who says profound things like, "Good luck tends to avoid me," and "Life isn't fair."
You keep saying that. I wonder what basis you have for comparison.
Yay!
He believes they are kindred spirits and is determined to keep her around. However, shortly after her arrival, Bella notices a white barn owl outside that seems to be watching her and follows her from window to window. Curious, she impulsively lets it inside, only to be swept into a bizarre dream world beyond all her admittedly limited imagination. The owl is gone. In its place is Jareth, the Goblin King. The gloriously coiffed personification of David Bowie's most intense acid trips also wants Bella to stay in his world as his companion, and in return, promises to make all of her dreams come true. When Bella asks if that means he'll make her mother stop dating a baseball player, Jareth doesn't answer the question directly, but he does offer her a tasty peach. And so the decision is now in Bella's hands. Will she remain in Frank-N-Furter's palace of sensuality, hanging out with Meatloaf and doing the time warp again? Or will she make her home in Jareth's labyrinth, befriending Jim Henson puppets and perfecting the arts of theater and ballroom dancing? In short, will she ultimately join Team Jareth or Team Frank? I don't know. That's why I, Miles Schneiderman, am your flamboyant judge this week.
Are you wearing lingerie?
You don't need to know about that.
Oh man, too bad it's not a video.
Let's just say I'm not wearing lingerie. Arguing for Team Jareth are Kit Mulcairn.
Asshole.
That's not even fair.
Just fear me, love me, do as I say, and I will be your co-host.
And Dan Mulcairn.
Slut.
Dan?
Patient.
Aw, you can't take ours.
Taken.
Arguing for Team Frank are Colin Mulcairn.
I'm not much of a man by the light of day, but by night, I'm one hell of an advocate.
And Madeline Thomas.
I see you shiver with Antissa.
So did it just wrap around to mine? Is that what happened?
Yeah, basically.
I guess so.
I
think we just did the time warp again.
To determine who goes first, I asked each team to compete, Project Runway style, in a fashion design competition using the aesthetics of their respective characters as their primary influence. Team Jareth wowed the judges with their frilly cravats and high collars, while Team Frank-N-Furter was tearfully kicked to the curb after a disaster involving unseemly stains from... is that blood? So, Team Jareth will be going first. Team Jareth, you might have power over me.
Oh, indeed. So, this is a story of allure, of temptation. So, between the two characters, who will be better at convincing Bella Swan to take a leap of faith out of her world and into a new one?
Let's compare their two worlds. We see only a sliver of the labyrinth in the film, but that sliver is full to the brim with goblin servants and friendly talking animals, big and small. Just the cutest, nicest caterpillars you'll ever meet. Come inside and meet the missus. So cute. Oh, God. Okay. And that's only the smallest portion of what we see is a truly gigantic maze. I'll give you that Sarah had a really rough time in the labyrinth, but that's because Jareth had ordered his servants to slow her down. In this scenario, Bella would be, at the very least, an honored guest, if not a co-ruler.
So compare that to the dilapidated mansion in Rocky Horror, where it looks like any exposed surface is probably harboring at least a dozen STDs, where your next meal may be the last person that Frank invited over, and where you have to go to sleep knowing that somewhere riffraff is under the same roof. Plus, you just know that if you interrupt one of Frank's songs or make Frank jealous or otherwise irritate Frank, he's gonna come at you with an ice axe. The labyrinth clearly has much higher property values than a room in Casa de Furter. But even on a personal level, Jareth still beats Frank with Frank's own cat o' nine tails. In this match, Frank brings
Not a riding crop?
I'm sure he has an array of accoutrements. In this match, Frank brings one thing and one thing only to the table: his raw sexuality. Now, this admittedly is no mean weapon. He's able to seduce both Brad and Janet in the same night.
And on that note, sure, he gets them to have sex with him, but he doesn't anywhere near seduce them into wanting to stay with him. He's murderously psychotic, and the only reason Brad and Janet stick around for as long as they do is because they have no choice.
Regardless, if Bella is the sort of person who decides to value the experience of a one-night stand, Frank has a definite chance here. But would she make that sort of decision? In Rocky Horror, Frank presents himself as being fully and immediately physically available to Brad and Janet almost from the first moment they meet. He is straightforward in his actions and intentions, making no secret of his attractions and sexual desires, and makes it clear that Brad and Janet can have him at any time.
However, Bella, from the very first Twilight novel, from the very first few chapters, shows she's not into easy flings. After she transferred to her new school, she was instantly popular, somehow, and more than a little noticed by some of the most popular guys in school. By the end of chapter 4, not one, but 3 guys ask her to a Sadie Hawkins-style dance, which, if any of our listeners don't know, is a dance to which women are traditionally supposed to ask the men. And she turns down all of them. She's not just looking for a good-looking fuck.
That's where Jareth has the advantage. Jareth's abilities go way, way beyond any strong but fleeting sexual attraction. There's a reason that so many women of our generation cite their first viewing of Labyrinth as a landmark in their journey from childhood to adolescence or adulthood. Frank may be sexy, but to many, many people, Jareth is the very embodiment of attraction itself, the bedrock, the physical, mental, and sexual ideal against which everyone else is measured and ultimately found wanting. His appeal includes sexual attraction, yes, but it goes far, far beyond it.
Jareth is at least as good looking as Frank when it comes to physical attractiveness, though I would argue that his glorious Final Fantasy-esque hair beats Frank's white guy fro. And Jareth is not only good looking, he has reality warping powers. He's bringing it like Scarlet Witch. Frank's alien tech cannot compete with that level of wish-granting game.
But none of that really matters in the end because Jareth is playing a much subtler game. In the movie, he first lures Sarah into the labyrinth by capitalizing on her wish to have her baby brother Toby disappear. By inviting her to make the journey through the labyrinth to his castle, he's able to tantalize Sarah both from a distance and up close. He conceals most of his true thoughts, emotions, and feelings, but lets just enough of his inner life show to catch Sarah's attention and keep her wondering. He taunts Sarah about being trapped in the labyrinth while simultaneously inviting her to give up her old life and live with him. But after his true feelings for Sarah are laid bare, he shows that he knows how and when to turn up the romance. In As the World Falls Down, he sings to Sarah, "I'll be there for you as the world falls down. I'll paint you evenings of gold. I'll spin you Valentine evenings. Though we're strangers till now, we're choosing the path between the stars."
Oh god, I love that song. Now, let's consider the character in Twilight that Bella ends up falling in love with, Edward Cullen. From what we can gather about Bella's taste in men, Jareth is much, much closer to the mysterious, brooding Edward in appearance and personality than is Dr. Frank. Edward clearly expresses an interest in Bella, yet intentionally pulls away from her whenever they seem like they might be growing close. And yet, when he decides he wants to draw Bella in romantically, he too has some sappy things to say like, Dan, I can't read this shit, you do it.
Don't be self-conscious. If I could dream at all, it would be about you. And I'm not ashamed of it. And also, you are the only one who has ever touched my heart. It will always be yours. Sleep, my only love.
Stephanie Meyer.
You know, you can't read it. I'm not sure I can listen to it.
Yeah, seriously. Please don't have another one.
No, that's it. That's all the direct quoting we're doing from there.
Anyway, for brownie points, Jareth can even turn into a winged creature of the night. Not a vampire bat, but owls are pretty fucking sweet.
So we've gone a little off the beaten path, but despite the numerous guys vying for Bella's attention, it's the dark and mysterious boy whose true intentions are unknown that draws her attention and attraction. Again, if her goal was a one-night stand, that would be fine, and Frank would be the clear choice. But Bella is after something different. To her, Frank is just another high school boy trying to get into her pants. Jareth is the mysterious and alluring figure who promises her more, if only she would just get closer. There's no question that she'll be drawn to him like a moth to a flame, leaving Frank in the dark. Team Jareth rests, Your Honor.
Excellent. I'm afraid it's your turn, Team Frank. But isn't it nice?
Very good. Dr. Frank-N-Furter is an all-around cool guy. He's an alien prince from the planet Transsexual in the galaxy of Transylvania who came to Earth long ago in his giant flying castle / spaceship / genetic engineering laboratory / pleasure palace. He is also an incredible scientist with technology that lets him teleport matter, transform living beings into stone and back again, and most impressively, he discovered the secret to creating life and used this power to create his beautiful blonde companion, the titular Rocky Horror. But indeed. But his strongest characteristic is that he is a fabulous dresser and he knows how to throw a real swingin' party. Frank-N-Furter is a master of seduction. He manages to seduce the innocent virginal Janet Weiss and her equally innocent straight-laced heterosexual fiancé, Brad Majors. Do you know how white-bread and conservative these two were before Frank met them? At the beginning of the film, we see Brad telling his girlfriend, Janet, that he loves her for the first time, and it's when he's proposing to her. He's so old-fashioned that he thought it was too promiscuous to tell a woman that he was in love with her before they were engaged. So yeah, that's what Frank is working with. Way more repressed and innocent than Bella. When Frank enters Brad and Janet's respective rooms at night, they're both startled to see him and they put up some weak resistance to his advances at first. They're uncomfortable with the idea of, cheating on their significant other. But after no time at all, both of them eagerly give themselves over to him and he shows them a great time. And we see that everyone who has been with Frank romantically is changed forever by the experience. Despite what you said about it being a one-night stand, it's really not. To quote something that the now sexually awakened Janet says later in the film, touch me. I want to be dirty. Thrill me, chill me, fulfill me, creature of the night. You don't see the lingering effects of this experience on Brad much during the course of the film, but fans of the greater Rocky Horror expanded universe know that in the script to the as of yet unproduced sequel to Rocky Horror, known as Revenge of the Queen, Brad went on to become a bottomless go-go dancer in Las Vegas who is fond of wearing 6-inch high heels and a rhinestone collar. But those aren't the only people that are obsessed with Frank. Columbia, Rocky, and the massive crowds of partiers that all hang around the castle are putty in his hands. This massive entourage bears a striking resemblance to the dazed admirers that hang around a vampire's den. Further evidence that Frank has a superhumanly magnetic personality. Even after Frank murders Columbia's lover and feeds him to her, she's still loyal to him. Columbia later participates in his pool orgy, sings a song about how much she loves him, and she tries to stop Riff Raff and Magenta from shooting him with an antimatter laser. Once Frank has you, nothing can break his hold. But there's another side to Frank as well, a vulnerable side. In the song Don't Dream It, Frank explains his admiration for the star Fay Wray, saying that when he saw her dressed in satin for the first time, it made him realize that he wanted to be dressed the same. His eyes are glassy as he opens up to the audience, holding back his tears. He tries so hard to be strong, but sometimes he just wants to be loved. We also see this vulnerability as he chases after his true love, Rocky, crawling after him on his hands and knees, crying out for his attention. We know that Bella likes the sensitive types, and Jareth never shows any sort of vulnerability like this. Columbia says, in regards to Frank-N-Furter, his lust is so sincere.
Indeed, indeed. Jareth, on the other hand, is so lame. Oh my god. I'm sorry, David Bowie is an amazing person, but there's nothing sexy about a man who wears sweatpants and can turn into a crappy CG owl. Also, he wears a codpiece. No, seriously, no penis is that square on planet Earth. Dr. Frank, who wears a silky pair of panties with a garter belt, so tight that there is no room for your imagination to flow. It's all natural down there.
Yeah, also, back when I was in high school, I tried to attract a lot of teenage girls, and let me tell you, they have absolutely no interest in contact juggling.
So that explains why you spent your junior and senior year walking around in those silk panties and garter belt.
I thought I would change it up. That started working better. They were into that. But
Also, Jareth is a cad. He creates this challenge for Sarah to solve to rescue her brother, but then keeps on changing the rules on her. The labyrinth keeps rearranging herself. At one point, he arbitrarily decides to speed up time, and then he gives her a roofie peach for absolutely no reason. He's like a bad DM with an inferiority complex who doesn't want to let his players win.
Shot.
Drink.
But most importantly, who the fuck wants to settle down in the labyrinth?
Caterpillars?
Yeah, okay. Minus the cute little caterpillars, the labyrinth is a shithole. It's all dirt brown and ugly ruins. Sure, there's the occasional topiary, but they're also surrounded by dirt brown and ugly ruins. I'm sure that Bella would be so happy to settle down right next to the bog of eternal stench with its farting rocks. Oh, hey, she can also hang out in the creepy groping hand pit, or the spacious confines of the oubliette, or the massive junkyards that stretch out as far as the eye can see. And everywhere she goes, she's going to be hassled by stinky little goblins. Jareth himself may be a beautiful man, but if he ever takes Bella to the labyrinth, it's kind of like if she were picked up by a really attractive guy in a bar, but then they go back to his place and find out he hasn't taken out the trash in 6 months, and the floor is covered with clothing, and he's got some weird, creepy-ass roommates. No matter how cute the guy may be, she's probably not going to see him again. We also decided to cover what Bella wants in a man. I actually went on to, Google Answers of all things.
Wow.
Yes, I know. And a couple of other forums.
take that, Yahoo Answers.
I went on a couple other forums as well, and it seems like the fans all seem to think that Bella wants 6 different things in a man. One of the things is the reason why she likes Edward so much is she wants to be a vampire. Now, sure, Jareth's got his whole creepy mystique going on there, but if you've ever read anything about the planet of transsexual in the galaxy of Transylvania, you'll find that it doesn't have a sun. There's only a moon in transsexual, and it's got great gothic architecture and is all dark and brooding. So if she wants to be a vampire, yeah, with black seas.
Rocky Horror Expanded Universe. Get into it.
It's like the Star Wars Expanded Universe, only sexier.
No, dude, the movies were batshit crazy enough. I can't.
Also, she's very attracted to looks, and as far as I can tell, Edward is pale, dark, wears heavy eye makeup and glitters. Now, if that doesn't describe Dr. Frank, I have no idea what does. Also, she tends to comment that she wants to look for someone who's different than everyone else she knows. I also don't see how anyone besides an alien transvestite from is going to be at all the same from everyone who lives anywhere near her.
Right, because she goes to school with a bunch of goblin kings.
He does seem to have an air of some sort of popular guy roaming around the halls of a school. I can't imagine there's very many transvestites at her high school.
There's more likely to be a guy who looks like David Bowie than a guy walking around in lingerie, I'm just saying.
Also, what she wants in a man is someone to physically lust after. Frank, duh. She also looks for someone who's rich and famous. I don't know about you, but being a prince from a faraway place tends to invoke the images of riches. Finally, she also looks for someone who's a bit desperate and a bit melodramatic. And let's face it, Frank is so melodramatic. I mean, his clinging to Rocky and trying to get him to notice him, his tearful cries and singing at the end of the movie. Whereas Jareth just seems cold and distant. And although he says he loves Sarah a lot in Labyrinth, you never really see it. He's very distant and keeps no contact with anyone at all. It's pretty obvious that at the end of this scenario, Frank and Bella are going to be having awesome, sexy Barbarella-like adventures roaming through the galaxy, while Jareth will be left alone in his castle playing with his balls.
Oh. All right. Strong opening arguments on both sides. I'm assuming you guys are done?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. We're going to move on to a quick rebuttal round. We've actually got something very special for this episode coming up, so rebuttal's going to have to be quick. I'm going to hold you guys to a pretty strict time limit. So, Team Jareth.
First thing I'll say, Frank has a tremendous and terrifying temper. You know, we see that scene where Eddie bursts in on Frank's I Can Make You a Man song and dance routine. Frank completely loses his paper-thin composure, and he murders Eddie in front of his guests. As soon as...
One time. He kills one guy with an ice pick.
He seemed to know exactly where that ice pick was and how to use it. Now, see, here's what I'm seeing. As soon as Jareth pulls ahead of Frank in any way, like even the smallest way, Frank will go into a frothing, undignified rage and try to kill Jareth, which is a very bad idea given how incredibly powerful Jareth is, magically speaking. You know, Frank will truly be doubling down on his shame. He'll first lose his composure, which will reveal how unhinged he is to Bella, and then he'll have his weapon of choice turn into a snake and bite him on the face, or Jareth will turn him into a prince of eternal stench! Ah!
I have a lot of points, I guess. I don't know where to start. I mean, first of all, on Brad, no proof that he's hetero. He could be closeted bisexual. Moving on. Okay. Janet's sexual awakening didn't direct her at Frank after that little wham bam thank you ma'am. She obviously preferred the dumb but way more sane Rocky after that. He became her creature of the night.
If anything, Frank's advances on her drove her away from him, ultimately. She went to someone else. And I think that that speaks about the sort of relationships that Frank tends to cultivate.
Frank is polyamorous, so, you know, I think that she just wanted to explore a lot of things. She would probably go back to Frank as well, but, you know, she wanted to try other people as well.
She did go back to Frank. She did go back to Frank. I mean, there's that whole orgy in the pool at the end of the movie.
Yeah, they have a pool orgy later.
That occurred, well, okay, let's see. That disturbing dinner happened, and then everyone freaked out and ran away from that, and they were running away, and they got immobilized to the floor, and then turned into statues. And then after they're restored, they're in this weird trance state where they're singing Rose Tint My World with Columbia. They're clearly not themselves at that point.
Something clearly happened.
Or are they more themselves than ever?
Yeah, and in fact, and when they're singing, they're being more truthful than they've ever been throughout the rest of the movie. I mean, there's that whole part where Brad's singing about how he wants his mommy back. All those words and things that they're saying are just their true feelings, and when they end up having a pool orgy, I think that's just what they wanted.
That may be, but it's still an altered state that's brought about by the use of the Medusa device. You know, it's something
not like, you know, the only time that we ever see Sarah actually interested in Jareth is right after she has like a roofie peach.
Right.
So in terms of like, you know, using coercion to seduce people and putting people in an altered state, if you want to talk about being dishonest, I mean,
well, look,
Jareth uses that way more.
I'm not arguing with that at all. I totally agree with you there. But it's a lot easier to give her a peach than it is to lure her up into the Medusa room and activate that machine. Like if we're talking about those sorts of tactics.
He had another switch right by the stage. So I imagine he has a Medusa/de-Medusa-izing people switch in every room in the house. He had one in the lab, he had one in the room with the stage, so I imagine they're just all over the place. He has like a light switch and then a Medusa/de-Medusa switch in every room.
Awful machine.
I want to start a band called Roofie Peach. Final rebuttal points for Team Jareth.
Yeah, awful machines and Peaches aside. Bella is crazy about Edward before she even finds out that he's a vampire, so that's not the reason she becomes obsessed with him. Cross that off the list. Edward frequently tells her that he loves her, but then he'll insult her, he'll lie to her, invade her privacy, stalk her. He's not a cool dude. Sorry to alienate any Twilight fans that might be listening. But
I'm not sorry.
Except the ones on Team Jacob.
I'm sorry. I am sorry. I take that back. You're cool, Twilight fans. I don't mean to shame your kink. It's all cool. You know, whatever you like, man.
It's not a piece of literature that was made for me, but I respect that there are people that it speaks to. That's beside the point.
Sorry.
I was all for Jacob until the baby thing. Whoa.
All right. Let's.
Yeah, seriously. All right.
We're falling down a rabbit hole quick here.
Yeah. Team Frank rebuttals.
Wow, you know, it's really tough to say because I feel like we've made some pretty good points so far. I mean, Jareth is just so bad at seducing people. I mean, the whole point of Labyrinth, the way it ends, is that Sarah says at him, "You have no power over me." Like, she's only basically ever wants to get her brother back. She's like a little bit intrigued by this guy at the beginning, but the only person that we ever really see Jareth trying to seduce, he fails to seduce. She just leaves. Whereas, Frank never fails in seducing someone.
He fails to seduce her on 3 separate occasions. Okay, first of all, when he first takes the baby, he tries to like get her to come with him, and she refuses him because she wants her brother back. Then there's the whole after the Roofie Peach scene, and he tries to seduce her there, and then she ends up breaking away out of that
running out the
bubble.
mirror, right? Yeah,
running out of the bubble. And then there's the final plea where he's singing to her about how much he loves her, and she just says, "You have no power over me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he says, "Just fear me, love me, and do as I say, and I will be your slave." I don't even think that Bella is stupid enough to fall for such a transparent, awful.
First of all, that actually, to me, that sounds like a direct Edward quote.
Let me pull out some quotes.
Yeah. But
no more.
But the thing is, Sarah doesn't go with Jareth because she knows that if she does, her brother will be turned into a goblin, and it will be all her fault. It will be all because of her. She resists Jareth because of her guilt. But Bella knows that if she goes with Jareth, there's no downside. He will give her everything she wants.
But that's his only seduction technique, is to steal the baby.
That wasn't his seduction technique. That was his way of getting her attention. He already has Bella's attention. He's just offering her something.
Does he? Or if that's the way he thinks that you seduce women, is by stealing their baby brothers. I think that just shows how stupid and backwards his head on. And you've admitted that his pickup lines are terrible and that he's awful at seducing people, but you just compared it to Edward. So what happens when Bella meets somebody who's actually good at seducing people, who actually knows how to talk and who knows how to have fun and who knows how to not be a weirdo? I mean, I think that's going to do even better and not worse at turning her off. She's
clearly not into those types of dudes, or else she'd be swimming in them in high school.
Yeah, what she's shown
Brad
to be.
And Janet are just as virginal and just as repressed and everybody.
No, they're way more.
Enraged.
They're way more.
There's a difference though,
Bella's
because
way more normal.
Bella. What we see in Twilight is that Bella desires a family. That's why she goes with the Cullens and hangs out with them for a while. Jareth can offer her a family. He has all these Muppets hanging out at his castle. He is shown to be good with kids. He can offer her something long
Yes,
term.
good with kids. That's why he throws the baby up in the air during the dance.
Touches it, and the baby laughs.
You've never thrown babies, Colin? It's totally fine.
Now I'm just imagining Jareth going around to clubs, trying to pick up girls, going buy a drink, stole your baby brother, buy another drink.
Can I get you a peach schnapps?
Also, the whole thing about the family is that one of the reasons why Bella likes the family so much is because everyone is so beautiful. Yeah, those goblins, they sure are a handsome bunch of guys, aren't they?
Yeah, she wants to hang around that ugly family. Bella might think that she wants those things the way that Brad and Janet thought that they wanted those things, because Brad and Janet at the beginning thought that they wanted that plain life, but Frank shows them by the end of it that they don't actually want that there is another way. And Bella has never thought about that because she's never met somebody who's offered that to her in a really compelling way. But I think she'll see that she wants that just as badly as they do once she's given that option.
Yeah, Frank opens up a whole new world for everyone else. What makes you think he wouldn't open up a whole new world for Bella?
I don't think so, because, again, we touched on this in the opening argument. The only tool in Frank's box, phrasing, is his sexuality. Jareth has sexuality, but he also has these aspects that are designed to appeal to basically adolescence, which is what Bella is. Bella's a teenager. You know, Jareth hangs out with Muppets. He has a very strong fairy tale feel to him. He grants wishes. Bella, as a teenager, is inherently between childhood and adulthood. Frank's unfettered sexuality has a very narrow appeal, but Jareth's appeal works on multiple levels. Frank is basically a one-trick pony, but Bella can have it all with Jareth.
All right, I'm going to stop it there because we have to free up a little extra time this episode for the bonus musical round.
Yeah.
What is happening here? As it turns out, both teams, independent of one another, created a musical element to their argument. So we're once again going to start with Team Jareth. What's going on here, Dan and Kid?
All right, so we are talking song and dance numbers, and we are talking musicals and music videos. So I admit that Frank has a good deal of style and panache, but in the end, he's limited by his movie's relatively small budget and a little thing called the laws of physics. And yes, I'm going to be breaking the fourth wall here. Jareth has all the pull of a big budget Jim Henson movie combined with the decades-long experience and connections of David Bowie and the legitimate reality-breaking magic of an omnipotent fairy tale creature. So, here's the music video. We start with a dramatically backlit Jareth standing against a smoky background, like Bowie in the opening shot from the Heroes music video. He's dressed in his usual fantasy, high-collared tailcoat and crotch-hugging breeches, hair framing his face in dramatic spikes and swoops. As he starts to sing about his infinite lifetime of loneliness, he effortlessly swirls 2 crystal balls on his fingers, making everyone who watches shift awkwardly in their chairs. The camera slowly zooms in on his face until his smoky gray eyes stare piercingly through the screen. Then, in a dramatic smash cut, he's surrounded by his minions, the numerous goblins and talking animals of the world of Labyrinth. But that's not all. It turns out that the creatures that humans have come to call Muppets are in fact goblins under his command. He's surrounded by characters from Dark Crystal, Fraggle Rock, The Muppet Show, freaking Sesame Street, even Yoda himself, in an insane dance number to end all dance numbers. And Jareth himself has changed into a lilac-colored zoot suit that still somehow manages to hug his crotch as he dances and leaps amongst his numerous minions. Oh, Isabella, I just want to tell you, you gotta be part of my world. And of course, now that we've finished the second verse, it's time for the guitar solo. And who's that? Why, it's Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones and Brian May from Queen. The two trade off a series of meaty but elegant arpeggios, redefining what rock music is capable of. Then, Jareth and Bella are on a comet, looking at the Earth, full and blue and distant in the black star-filled sky. Jareth has once again changed his wardrobe, this time into a glittering sequin jumpsuit with a star painted over one eye. And who's backing him up on instrumentals? Why, it's the Flight of the Conchords, whom Jareth has pulled backward through time to cash in on the favor they owe him. Don't you see, Bella? You're meant for me, Bella. I'd give you the world if you'd just be part of mine. With that, he reaches up and grabs the Earth itself out of the sky, revealing that it was one of his crystal balls. And, with an impossibly suave and charming smirk, revealing a few teeth just crooked enough to be totally endearing, he turns and offers the ball to Bella. And scene.
I think the slogan is affecting all of us.
Oh, wow. That's a tall bar to clear, Team Frank, but I think you can do it. What do you got?
Well, Maddie did the honors of writing an entire song.
Are you going to do the background music, Colin?
But she was not confident enough in her singing skills or her ability to do a Tim Curry impression.
Oh, boy.
So
Yes,
I will be taking that honor over. Welcome in, little girlie. I've lit a light in the fireplace. Let's get close, little girlie. Don't be afraid of my painted face. I'll put on a film to set the mood. Hope you don't find me overly crude, but we'll both feel pretty groovy as we delight in this Steve Reeves movie. Will you watch a movie with me, Bella, my dear? You don't have to worry, you have nothing to fear. Will you watch a movie with me? Now don't throw a fit. I think you'll really quite enjoy it. You'll find that I'm not all that bad as the firelight grows low, little girl. To turn me down would be quite mad, 'cause I have one hell of a show to unfurl. Let's go on a journey through time and space. We'll show Jareth that you're really mine, with his garish lion's mane hairdo. He has no power over you. Will you watch a movie with me, Bella, my dear? You don't have to worry, you have nothing to fear. Will you watch a movie with me? Now don't throw a fit. I think you'll really quite enjoy it.
Amazing.
Wow.
I think a few more dramatic pauses and you'll really nail his cadence.
Yeah. I need to get the dramatic
the
pause down.
anticipation.
Indeed.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what happens when you have way too much time on your hands after work.
Yeah, apparently. All right. Shit. Well, I almost feel like we don't even need a lightning round after that, but I
That
have
kind of
one
was a
anyway.
lightning round.
Yeah, it kind of was. But I have one anyway, and I'm really anxious to see how much it makes you guys hate me.
Oh, yeah.
So here's what's gonna happen.
Say it's
The
time for
lightning round is here.
Say
The
it.
lightning round is here.
Oh, lightning.
It is time
oh,
for the
shit.
lightning round.
Arnold?
Oh,
Oh, God.
All right. So at this point, I'm pretty sure that Bella will be living the rest of her life in either a fantasy realm or a mad scientist castle, but there's a problem here. You may have noticed that our scenario occurs at the very beginning of the first Twilight book, and now that Bella is gone from this world, that means there's no Twilight story?
Oh, no.
I don't want to even live in such a
No
world.
Twilight? How the hell are 12-year-old girls supposed to learn about vampirism and Mormon values without Twilight? This is unacceptable! Jareth, Frank, something has got to be done about this. It's not just a tragedy, it's a goddamn wasted opportunity. You both know the youth market is crying out for supernatural teen romance teeming with social and sexual repression. You could make a fortune and save the tween emo kids at the same time. Only neither of you are writers. Well, you know what? Fuck it. You're both good at musicals, obviously. Make this shit happen. Twilight the Musical, created by Jareth and Frank, respectively.
Oh.
Hell, we can even ditch the name. The only rule is that it has to be a teen romance about vampires. Tell me the name of the hit musical your character would create, the two lead actors involved, a bare-bones plot summary, and the name of the biggest musical number. The fate of kids with dyed black hair hanging over one eye everywhere hangs in the balance. Team Jareth went first in both the opening round and the musical round, so Team Frank will get to go first in the lightning round.
I think our big musical number would be called Emo Love. The name of our musical shall be That Time Before Night.
Ooh, I like that.
Time before night.
That Time Before Night is going to be the version of Twilight that has been written by Dr. Frank-N-Furter. And so it's similar in many ways to Twilight, except in the part of Edward, he's actually casting Chris Pine. And in the part of Bella, he is casting Michael Cera.
Yeah.
So it's a version of Twilight that actually takes place at an all-boys school, and where there is a seductive vampire who it's basically the same thing, except it's just really gay. And it was basically
makeup.
What's that?
And they all both have fabulous makeup.
Oh, and of course he's designing all of the makeup and all of the costumes, so it's all just an incredible amount of like white fake makeup and too much eye makeup and lingerie and everything. And it actually turns out that he doesn't actually really care whether or not the musical gets released. He just sort of wants an excuse to get a bunch of men in lingerie and hang out with them. And it does end up getting released, and it's of course a big hit, but he doesn't really care that much about that. Anything you wish to add, Maddie?
Yes, just one lyric from the emo love song.
Yes.
You slit the wrists of my heart.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's a killer. That'll go over huge with those kids. Team Jareth, what musical version of Twilight would the Goblin King come up with?
Unchanging Midnight. It actually comes from an Edward Cullen quote.
Ugh,
I can tell you
we
guys
said
if
we
you
were
like.
done.
God damn it.
All right, so Unchanging Midnight seems suitably melodramatic for a dude who walks around in a tailcoat all the time. Now, Jareth is, of course, an inherent part of the 80s, so his two lead actors will be similar 80s icons. So playing the part of Edward, of course, will be a young Emilio Estevez, and playing the part of Bella will be Molly Ringwald.
Naturally.
Yes. Now, Jareth is also a fan of fairy tales, so the plot is actually going to be a lot closer to East of the Sun, West of the Moon, where Bella in this is a young high school student who is sort of feeling ennui at the grinding mediocrity of her life, when suddenly an owl, which is weird, comes to her house and offers her father a bunch of money if her father will allow Bella to marry the owl. So he sends Bella off because he's a horrific parental figure, and they go and live in the owl's castle, and the owl actually proves to be a very good host, and at night transforms into a handsome prince, presumably because he tells Bella that she can never actually look at his face in the light. However, one night, overcome by curiosity, she does so, and the sparkling blinds her, and also turns on this curse that sends him to the faraway land. She has to go get him, finds a bunch of adorable companions along the way, including Sir Didymus from Labyrinth, because he needs to be in everything.
Yes, he does.
Basically, it's East of the Sun, West of the Moon, but with owls and vampires and Sir Didymus. and also half the cast of The Breakfast Club.
For good measure.
Can the rest of the cast just be operating random Muppets in the background?
Yeah. Absolutely.
The Muppets will look like them, too. It'll really
Oh, great.
Oh yeah, an Ali Sheedy Muppet, that would be something. And then of course the big musical number is going to be a version of a David Bowie song, but repurposed for this occasion, called of course Bloodsucker City.
Nice.
I'm glad we can keep finding jobs for Frank Oz.
Yeah, really, right? Well, shit. That's all I have to say right now. I have to make some kind of decision between these two, and I don't even know if my brain is functioning that well when I haven't just been serenaded by Goblin King and Frank-N-Furter lyrics. So, I need to go up to the lab and see what's on the slab. It's a peach, by the way. That's what's on the slab. So I'll be right back. Converse amongst yourselves briefly while I try and somehow make a decision on this.
Well, happy birthday to me. I really liked having this reason to watch these movies and
Yeah, it was great.
listen to those delicious deep British voices.
Oh my god, any excuse for me to watch Muppets and I'm happy.
Yeah, it was great.
You came out of the gate hot on your debut, Maddie.
Oh, thank you.
That was you came out swinging. I was impressed.
Yeah, you're great.
Thanks to Colin, he kind of wrote a lot of stuff.
And you wrote the song. Man, that's the hardest part. So-
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Oh man, no, I like rhyming things sometimes,
Yeah.
and I was just thinking to myself while sitting here, and I was like, hey, do you know what? Bella rhymes with a lot of stuff.
She's
So-
pretty swella.
In order to do research for the music video, I started watching a bunch of David Bowie music videos, and
Oh,
like,
awesome.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Ashes to Ashes music video. It is
Yeah.
pure
Oh my-
distilled madness. Just the weirdest 4 minutes I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that was also...
Oh, man.
Just so you guys know,
I
that was...
just realized we could have done something different because, it's David Bowie with Muppets, but we could have done Tim Curry with Muppets with the Muppet Treasure Island.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, too. Yeah. The one thing I was worried about in this was that I realized I was watching Labyrinth that everything in that world sparkles.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, oh man, Bella's going to love this place because everything sparkles everywhere.
Yes. But then I remembered that Frank-N-Furter wears so much glitter in everything.
Yeah, it's pretty much an even playing field. Like, whether it's the crystal balls or just the sequins on everything,
Right, that he wears.
It's pretty much a wash.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Can't believe you dissed contact juggling, Colin.
I love contact juggling. High school girls do not.
That was like the limits of special effects that they had in the 80s. That and a really terrible CGI owl.
Oh, man. Hi, guys.
Hello, Miles.
Since we last spoke, I have become completely debauched. Participated in a number of orgies, in a number of environments. Both fantasy and B-movie sci-fi alike. This was really, really hard. I think... And it still is. Yep. But I think in the end, I think Bella is going to stay in the castle with Frank.
Yes.
I think the point made about the dinginess of the labyrinth and the inhospitable nature of its environs was a good one. And I think that Team Jareth went really well on Frank's psychopathic tendencies, but that might actually be appealing to someone like Bella, that sense of danger. I was swayed very deeply by both arguments, and the music round was a delight.
Well,
so thank you guys for that. But I have to go with Frank on this one.
Well played, guys. I'm sure that Bella will make a delicious meal at the next dinner party that's held at the castle.
There's an empty seat if Jareth wants to, join. I think that Frank he likes his look. I think he wants to maybe get to know him a little better.
Yeah, there's some shipping that we can do.
I think that's really how it's going to end. They're going to kick Bella out, and the two of them are going to work together.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, because they're both going to find out that Belly is so boring and insipid
Seriously.
that they're just going to throw her out.
The goblins and the various hangers-on in the castle are going to start a giant dance number where they do a mashup of the time warp and dance magic dance.
Oh, man.
Holy shit.
Nice.
I see that.
Babies flying everywhere.
Babies flying all over the place.
As everyone puts their knees together and does a pelvic thrust.
So jump to the left and a step to the right. And it's just a jump to the left and a step to the right to our next episode.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Maddie, for joining
Yes,
us.
thank
It
you.
was
Well,
a pleasure
thank you.
having you. And we hope to have you on again sometime soon. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Thanks to Andy Spurlock for the suggestion.
Yes, thank
for
you,
this
Andy.
episode. Yeah, it was a really excellent idea. We loved it, and we really want to do more fan-suggested contests going forward. So once again, please send all your ideas for future Smash Fiction episodes to smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Next week, Aang versus Captain Planet.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo design by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction Podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight. The decision is now in Bella's
I could eat a
hands.
peach for hours.
Oh, God.
Shut the fuck
You
up.
thought it went away.
Nope.
It came back.
No, Castor and fucking Doom. Forever.
Doom!
Damn it!